Now, ahead of next year's general elections, the Centre for Good Governance, along with the University of the Free State, will be hosting a series of workshops on coalition governments countrywide. A two-day conference set to take place in December is themed around whether coalitions are dedicated desire states or destructive states of disaster. Coalition governments have become a major talking point ahead of next year's election, with several political parties teaming up to take on the ANC. Professor Erwin Schwella from the Hugenote School of Social Innovation joins us now for more on this. Good afternoon, Prof. Welcome to today, and thank you very much for your time. I think it was in August when the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, also hosted a workshop around coalitions. And then, of course, we saw that big news story of a number of multi-party parties coming together in some multi-party coalition of sorts. So we're already in that space. Your role in this engagement, why did you think it was important for you as well to hold such workshops?
Oleg, thank you very much for the opportunity. Although coalition matters are very serious matters, it might be appropriate to just introduce a bit of humor here. And it was the famous Otto von Bismarck, a Prussian politician, who said that you don't want to see how laws and sausages are made. Perhaps we should just paraphrase that and say you don't necessarily want to see how coalitions and sausages are made. We as academics and professional practitioners as well in governance, in many ways immerse ourselves in these questions, and then we see emergent qualities of what happens then. Now, we have been involved for quite some time with a group of senior politicians, and let us also say they are very committed senior politicians and politicians in the country, although there are many jokes about politicians as well, but let's not go there. Point is, and we had a process by means of which we involved a lot of leaders from political parties across the political spectrum, inclusively, in a program where we started to design a course contemplating next year's coalition government on the basis that knowledge will improve the probabilities of success for coalitions. And that course was prototyped, and we're now testing it with politicians as well in order to roll it out massively next year with the Free State University as our platform. And simultaneously, we must also recognize the support of the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung in this regard. Now, it is therefore things that interest politicians, academics, professionals. However, it also interests the ordinary people who may want to see how laws and sausages are made. And we therefore linked our professional and academic part to a popular conference where many of these role players, the politicians and the professionals, academics, will be together to show, to give a sneak preview to the public into how coalitions are made.
Are you anticipating interactive sessions, also a presentation maybe of some research that you've been doing?
Of course, we will always start with a theoretical perspective, which is academic, but we are not only academics, we are prac-academics. We are practical academics and professional people who also engage with politicians and professionals. And remember, public servants are also usually important. When coalitions fail or fail to get off the ground, then we need a professional public service to settle the interim matters. So politicians, the public, professionals, also public officials are all welcome. And we do start with a knowledge grounding. But this is not boring academic stuff. In my personal opinion, academic stuff is never boring, but I do understand that might be somewhat idiosyncratic. However, we want to make it interesting for people who are interested in seeing what potential and what possible hazards are held with these particular coalition forming activities, and then perhaps have a future view on how this can in the future, into next year, developed into sets of scenarios. And I think that's not only of interest to academics, but also to the press, to the public, and also to politicians.
You know, currently, you mentioned the word coalition to a resident of Tshwane in Pretoria, or a resident of Ekurhuleni, east of Johannesburg, or here in Johannesburg itself. Yeah, people think, oh, this is a big headache, it's a nuisance. These coalitions are bringing more problems for us. Will your workshops assist in defining how coalition governments can be improved and be made effective in South Africa? If we end up with a national coalition government, nobody knows when the elections are going to be, but they're going to be around about winter time. We expect around about July, August next year. We are waiting for the proclamation. Are you going to be looking into how to improve and make them effective?
Well, if winters are cold, then we should actually work to make coalitions a hot topic and to get people involved in it. The more we as the public get involved in coalitions and in the way in which coalitions are dealt with, the more we take it out of the hands of those people who use it for their own selfish purposes. So we need to work on public participation, not in the strict, shall we say, administrative or governance sense of that, but the public must have an interest. And let us also say that perhaps there's only one worse thing to coalitions which break up, and that would be a continuation of the hegemonic, centralized, and in some ways politically dominated, party-driven, interest-driven governance that we have now. So we can build a new set of rules, a new culture, which could also help us with building consensus in the country and find a way of getting back to a cohesive state, because currently also our coalition culture is driven by conflict and contestation. We as South Africans must work cooperatively to build social cohesion and work together also in government. And that is the type of idealistic views that we have. And we believe that if you aim low, you'll actually hit the target at a low level. We aim to inform this to be a much more idealistic state where we can actually cooperate as cooperative governance requires us and build social cohesion rather than conflict.
Okay, when is your workshop and conference? I understand it's going to be taking place over 2 days in December.
Yes, that's right. We have it on the 5th and the 6th of December in the beautiful town of Wellington in the Western Cape, at an interesting place, which is perhaps also in some ways particularly relevant. Is the Andrew Murray Center of Spirituality, which is attached to Hugenote College, which is a beautiful campus with old buildings. And we want to do it there to say that we can combine the old and the new, the good, for the good of our people, in a sense where we all build cohesion, cohesiveness, rather than contestation and conflict.
Okay, who will be participating? And if somebody's listening to you now, how can they get involved?
Well, we will have many of those people whom we've had in designing our course and with whom we've had conversations in a number of places. In some ways, the Deputy President's work dovetailed with that. The work in terms of my colleague, Professor William Gumede, dovetailed into that. And these people we are going to try and involve in this conversation, but we're also not going to have only a talk shop. We're going to involve the public in workshop, not only a conference, therefore a conference and workshops where they can give their own ideas and participate. Those who are interested can find my particulars. Just Google Erwin Schwella. And you'll find a way of getting in contact with me, or Erwin Schwella at Hugenote College, or Erwin Schwella at Civinovus. But you'll see that if the Google will give you some opportunities to get into connection with me, and everybody is welcome. We have to make a change, and we can make a change, and it is up to us to make a change for the better of this country.
Thank you very much, Professor Erwin Schwella from the Hugenote School of Social Innovation, just setting up the scene for us ahead of this two-day conference on coalition governance that's set to take place on the 5th and the 6th of December. Look out for it. As you said, you can Google him, Erwin Schwella, and you'll be able to track and trace and find them. And if you want to take part, of course, he says everybody is welcome. Now, still ahead shortly here on